Recording.
All right, we're back, and we're approaching it's getting close to a Kansas sunset here in January. And it was pretty cold yesterday, but the weather's made quite a recovery today. And I'm just wanting to share a few things that are on my mind and just do a little vlog because, it's something I'm wanting to try to do on my channel and share. And yes, I'm out here on the Dozer Doozy. That's pretty nice. Nice day to kind of get out about it. But what I wanted to discuss, I'm going to get right to it. Obviously this is a 470 stroker with the wide ratio gears. I'm going to put my shield down real quick. And I put off for my paperwork to be able to tag this. This bike's insured now. I'm pretty excited about that. But what I wanted to discuss was electric motorcycles. There's a lot of opinions on that, just like there are with electric cars and let's see what else. Obviously electric motorcycles. There's e-bikes and whatnot now, and there's a lot of different things that different industries are trying. There's alternative transportation sources, trains, semis, trucks, hybrid things, and all of those. And obviously, they're talking about motorcycles. And over the last few years, I don't know if you can see that, but the moon is out there and it's looking quite full. It'll be nice and bright tonight. But that we've been seeing what's been going on with electric motorcycles. Last few years, we've seen lightning motorcycles and things such as that emerging and being used on road courses and things of that sort. And the industry, the manufacturing, and just the engineering that goes into those things have improved. I don't have any exact data prepared for this, but these are all stepping stones. What I have to say is all these things that have happened and the development of this, they've improved. And I think that a lot of people, especially the environmentalists, and keep in mind I have a degree in environmental science, and so I've looked at the science on sustainable energy, and I think there's some good things, and there's some sustainable energy that isn't very sustainable. But when we're looking at developing different power sources, drive materials, fuel, if you will, electric motors need the flow of electrons, and that's got to be stored some way. So you either got to do that in some sort of battery source, or harness safely somehow the power of hydrogen. The problem with hydrogen is you're sitting on a bomb, or if something happens, because vehicles crash, well, it can effectively be used as a battery source using some chemistry that I'm not smart enough to describe. But what's important, just like what's happening in our politics here in the States and across the world, possibly. People are trying to get rid of the combustion engine. So it's important that while there is a limited supply of hydrocarbon fuel, we use that fuel to buy us the time. We use that fuel to buy us the time. While it's cheap, we keep it cheap to give us that wiggle room to innovate. And I have no doubt that electric vehicles, are a part of the future. We have to produce power plants with this increased demand to be able to charge, and even charge quickly to be able to do this. But I'm kind of getting off on a tangent. We've seen Zero motorcycles. We've seen Harley Davidson put a substantial investment in electric motorcycles, some innovations that they've tried. That's cool. I think it's a good step. We've seen motocross style motorcycles come out. We've seen the Alta, which unfortunately they might have just were a little ahead of their time. A little ahead of their time, in my opinion. I think they were. But they, even at a failure, they were a success because they proved it could be done. They proved it could be done. We've seen the KTM, pronounced KTUM, come out with their free ride. We've seen, we're going to keep it strictly to motorcycles, but as a tangent, as I discussed earlier, the car, the regular cars, we've seen the Volt and the Tesla. We've seen a lot of things happen with hybrids and that sort of technology with Toyota, their Prius, amongst other things. And they've used a lot of that technology, and we've made better motors. Our batteries have gotten better, but a lot of people don't consider that a lot of these batteries are mined materials, and there's a lot of diesel burnt to mine that material. A lot of effort goes through that. There have been stepping stones, and there's some new things that are out that are exciting, that are still being developed. One of those things is the sodium-ion battery, a much more common material, a more available material as the base, but very, very volatile, much as lithium is fairly volatile. Notice how some of the cell phones had some real issues as they tried different batteries over the years. Some of them had been catching fire and whatnot. So keeping the material that the battery is made out of, the sodium, again, I'm not explaining this in its full scientific glory, but keeping the material separated, they're using, at least in their preliminary, they're using carbon fiber, non-conductive material, to keep the layers of the cells separate from one another. And that's supposedly, when they can start manufacturing that more mass production, there'll be some benefit to that for people to use. Hopefully that's something that is used as a stepping stone. But we need the combustion engine. We need our industry that is driven by these, what we'll call conventional means. Conventional means. Combustion engine, diesel, to move these vehicles. Look at there, we got a double truck right over here moving food material and food products to restaurants and other places that use it. We have to not kneecap those industries and use them, but also have the incentive to keep them operational. Otherwise, if we're forced into using some of these things, it'll make it so much more unaffordable or unreasonable, unusually unreasonable. So that you can't afford to do anything. Think about what's happening in California. The outdoor gas generators are going to be disallowed. Power equipment, mowing your lawn, you got to use some sort of battery powered turd, which those things are neat toys. I'm just out here riding the winery because I want to. It's pretty cold still. We might have got up to 50, but it's not 50 anymore, but the wind is down, so I'm just out here riding. You know, I've seen a lot of people start with try to get or even getting successfully, and they're trying out the Sur-On X or the Segway. What is that thing? There's a 150 or one something, and the 250 or two whatever model that it is. They have two different models, and it's all about maybe a little bit more power, but main thing is range, which is kind of somewhere in that squishy point between being a motorcycle and a mountain bike. Those things do have pedal kits that come with them that are basically useless, but they're put on to make them somewhat legal in some of these areas. Somewhat legal. And of course, there's been a lot of media releases of this motocross bike, the Stark Varg. I think that's what Spark Varg or Stark Varg or some sort of crazy name. It's a motocross bike, and I think they're going to do a trail version or just have it to where it's a trail able bike with probably different power modes and whatnot. You've seen people do that, and the weights, they've done some things to get the weight down and keep it down some. So those things are things that are exciting, and there's going to be some growing pains with that to make, there's things to consider, versus this bike where I forgot I hadn't smoothed out that gravel, huh? If I'm getting low on range because of fuel, I can dump more fuel into the tank almost immediately and have more range. You can't do that with an electric bike in the current state of things. If you're almost completely depleted or you're depleted, that could be 3-4 hours on the quickest charge, longer. That's a real bummer if you want to keep going, and they don't make it to where you can quickly change out the batteries, as far as my understanding is. So that's going to be a growing pain. Will there be more innovations? Yes. But we're not ready to fully switch over to fully electric power sports. They're expensive right now because the materials are expensive. Batteries aren't cheap, and it's going to get more expensive if we try to stay with the same materials, which that's just not feasible. We're not going to do that because we just can't. We can't get away with lithium forever. Switch this down into first. Yeah, I stood up and had to get a little bit serious. Anyway, I'm going to head home. But I just wanted to share what was on my mind with that and see what of that makes sense to people. I think an electric motorcycle would be fun to play with, even like a Suron X or something like that. Just something in between. I've seen some people really turn them into a wheelie bike because they have basically a handbrake for the rear. You have no clutch. I'm going to talk about some other positive things about them. People that have some disabilities that may not have the hand strength. You can hear this bike kind of lugging a little bit because I'm in fifth gear and I really don't have any business being in fifth gear at this time. But there's people that don't have the clutch strength or clutch hand strength, or they might have a disability. They might have been injured riding, or just something's happened to them in life. They may just barely be able to hang on. They may be missing a member. Who knows? Electric might be a good compromise at this point, just so they can get out and ride and do something. I think that's a huge thing. I think that could be a really big deal for a lot of people. Yes, of course, there are recluse clutches and whatnot, but you still got a downshift. I don't think you can. Some of the sport bikes, you can have a clutch kit or whatever put in them where you can auto blip and all that. But we're talking about off-road for the most part here. Range is an issue on them, but if you're just happy to be able to be in control of it, think about that. That'd be such a huge advantage for somebody. I think that would be a big deal. I think if you really got after it, there was a video by a guy named Vegas Romaniac. He's a pretty cool guy. He's crazy, but he's smart, and he's doing a lot of videos on the Segway, Suron X, whatever you want to call it. They're the same bike made in the same factory. I think on a trail riding, how he rides, he's slower than he is on his, let's see, what is that? YZ 250 FX. I think that's what he rides mainly, but it's lighter for him. He's got some back issues, and so he throws that on his hitch hauler on his car. And it's like 130, 150 pounds or something like that. And he's doing a lot of videos trying different kit on it, trying moose tubes and different gearing, and he put some different things on there. But I think out of his bike, he's getting like, maybe 17 miles or something like that out of a charge, and then he's done. And even if you had the pedal kit on it, you might be able to go like 3 miles an hour if you pedal hard, which make him effectively useless. It's not practical at all. Be that as it may, there's people trying things, and they're expensive for what they are, and they're neat, they're novelty, and they're a stepping stone into becoming more sustainable. Yeah, I wanted to finish off with a little bit of politics. And I know, here in the States right now we have a Democrat president. And he ran as a moderate, but he's doing very radical things. One of those things is immediately one of the many initial executive orders he took kneecapped the future of oil industry, the oil flow from Canada. Really pissed our Canadian friends off and cost a lot of jobs here in the States. A lot of jobs and a lot of investment of materials from paid for by industry leaders and who was over that project. And one thing it did affect immediately was it affected futures. Yes, it did not carry oil as of yet, but it was going to be completed. And it did not get completed. It's not going to get completed, but it might get completed. Hopefully nobody vandalizes it or tears it apart, and they are able to complete it one day, and we're able to use those resources. But that affected production. Many of the sources that have been tapped to make the United States one of the oil production leaders in the world were reversed. Unnecessarily, I might add. And that affected the price of fuel. Again, like I said, I opened up with, it's important for us to keep the price of fuel low, giving people a job to do what it is that they do. We have many experts of oil in the world, and also obviously the United States. We're producing more efficient, fuel-efficient vehicles, which is good. We're still making things stronger and staying under the radar, like the dozer doozy here. Yeah, it's sunset. All right. But we're also continuing to kneecap the industry unnecessarily. Towards the end of the previous administration, we had fuel that, even during the pandemic, that was, I think I paid $1.70 or something like that a gallon, something in that range, maybe even less. And it was because these resources were being used and red tape was being removed and letting people actually get these resources that we can use to branch out and create this innovation. And there were a lot of things. Elon Musk was able to do a lot of his things with the Tesla. And things that have not really been even publicized, because fuel was cheap and it gave people breathing room to develop these new industries, make it practical. I remember when I was in high school, again, we're talking about 98, 97, 98. I think it was 98 when I started driving. Fuel was in the 70s per gallon, 70 some odd cents. And at the time I was making minimum wage. And I think that was like $5.15. I might have been making a little bit more than that an hour. $5.15 an hour, and not a care in the world. And I eventually got my truck, and I think that one of the cheapest, and that would have been a 99. I think the cheapest that fuel was $88. Did they not see my turn signals? I have it on. $88 cents, 70 some odd cents a gallon versus $3 a gallon. We'll just refer to them as 44 for his two terms. Fuel approached $4 a gallon at a certain time. And it's those same policies kneecapping the oil industry. That's not the way to do things, is go in and change things if it's not going to help people. And I'm not just saying Democrats or Republicans or independents, and just everybody in general. If you're not helping people, then and I say people as in business, people that work for a business, industry leaders, scientists, innovators, you're doing radical changes, that's going to upset the economy. And so all those things are done on top of, I say on top of, us having this plandemic, that, this man-made disease from China. So we're having shelves that are bare. We're not able to get things. We're not able to get our bike parts. But, seriously, I was at the auto parts store the other day, and they were talking about not having the worm gear hose clamps on their shelf. They were flabbergasted that they had some. I'm just looking here. I'm going slower, and my temperature is 148 degrees. Something I haven't added on this channel yet is that I have a fan controller here, and it's the Trailtech Universal kit that I put on here, but I'm not using their thermostat controller. I'm the thermostat controller. I want to turn it on when I want it to be on. Its unit has cables that are way too short for my liking, and I'm not willing to hack it all up and make it longer just to get it to work. But one thing I did do is I'm using the meter or the thermostat that I say thermostat, thermistor or the pickup for it that fits in between the radiators, because it's the same. It's Trail Tech, just like my unit here is Trail Tech, and so it hooks in, and I don't have to splice into the radiator hoses. So I just had this little copper piece that I had to mill down a little bit and fit in between the radiator, and I have this fan that hooks on here. Well, I'm really chatty Cathy today. I'm talking about all these different things. It's like we haven't talked in a while. So I'm just out for a little cruise. Wanted to talk about some of those things. I'm not really an advocate for the electric bikes. I'm not really an advocate for them not to make electric bikes. I think they're cool, and I think they're a stepping stone for what is to come. I hope it's not anytime soon, and I hope I don't have to start growing corn in my backyard to make moonshine, my own E85, and jet this beast and my other bikes to run on ethanol, which is something that can be done, but you got to understand that if you're going to do that, you require more fuel. It's more fuel. You need to have larger jets or bigger injectors if you're fuel injected. If you believe that sorcery. But it affects everything, so you have to have a higher amount of fuel, otherwise you'll be running lean. Too lean, but you will run cooler. And thank goodness this bike has I equipped with this outlet on the head with a thermostat, but even at that, we're running at 116 degrees running into this cold north wind on my coolant, because that's just where she's at, 110, and just getting cooler and cooler. It'll probably maintain it around that. I gotta be careful here. There's a 70-mile-an-hour pull. Yeah, so it looks like it maintains, that thermostat maintains it at least 110. So long story short, we do need innovation. We need better leadership in our most important office in the country. Nancy Pelosi needs fired. Chuck Schumer needs fire. And Fauci, he can go pet a wet dog. Yeah, not all Republicans are innocent either. It shouldn't be about Democrat or Republican, but it seems to me that the Democrats, or the Dems, are causing their fair share of hurt to our country, and our independents and our moderate Democrats need to step their game up, and there needs to be a check to the balance. I understand everybody needs to be represented, but people in our urban areas also need to understand where their food comes from, because I think they're actually so distanced from the reality of that. The people here in the Midwest and other parts of the, and I say that as a broad term, we'll just say the flyover parts of the country. If they understood where we were coming from, perhaps they wouldn't have certain views when they get that, when they eat that slice of bread, or when they have that burger. Anyway, I think this has gone on long enough, and I wanted to share these views, and I wanted to also go out for a freaking ride. So, thanks for coming along with me. Thanks for watching, and remember if you made it this long to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.